Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please rise and join us in our Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a huge job.
Can I get a motion to approve the agenda for tonight?
Second.
Moved by Mr. McCarthy, second by Mr. Loy. Any discussion? All those in favor? It is unanimous, and I'll just note that Mr. Bedworth is notified that he wouldn't be able to make it tonight, so it is unanimous with the 8. And with that, we're going to move into our special presentations to the board, and I don't know if Mr. Colabufa wants to introduce King and King or just call him up. I guess we'll just call him up.
King and King.
Very well done.
I'm not sure if there's much. Maybe if you got. Yeah. Try that.
We good?
Wow, look at that.
Real mic.
Hi, everyone. Good to see everyone. So we've got a quick presentation to just bring everybody up to date on where we are since the bond referendum. I'll let everybody introduce themselves. We have a big team. It's a big project, so it's good for you to know everybody. So I'm Kirk Narberg. I'm the CEO and managing partner at King & King, also the partner in charge of this project. Come on up.
I'm Amanda Thomas. I'm the team leader project manager on the project from King & King.
Hi, I'm Tim Bonaparte. I'm a partner with Appel Osborne Landscape Architecture in charge of the site design for the project.
I'm Chris Gray with Turner Construction. A few familiar faces here. We did a project together in the past.
I'm Pat Griffin with Turner Construction. Like Chris, I was here 10 years ago to do your last capital project, so we're here doing the pre-construction efforts.
All right. So we started out, it's amazing how time flies when you're having fun, back at the beginning of the year and fast track through a discussion on a bond referendum that we had in May. If you recall, we had these 3 main goals for the project, which were to first and foremost address the critical infrastructure issues that we identified in our walkthroughs and also were identified in the building conditions survey. So those were really the prioritized areas. Then we went and we looked at the program specific items that potentially we wanted to try and prioritize as well for the buildings. We have so much need, though. Honestly, the program elements really boiled down to just a couple key areas, one being the auditorium and the high school. And then, the primary goal was to do all of this for this first round with minimal or no impact to the district on the tax side. So we were able to accomplish all those. You have a handout that shows this a little bit more in detail, but we have the key areas that of the buildings that we're focusing in on. As you can see from what we highlighted with each of the buildings, some of the key elements that are similar amongst all the buildings is site reconstruction, IT technology elements, masonry restoration, roofing for sure, and then we have some highlighted areas of specific program scope, one of which Tim is going to talk to in just a minute with the high school and the stadium, with rebuilding the track and the football field or the field surface, and then the other elements. Amanda's going to talk a little bit more about this in just a second, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the specific areas, and we will specifically address CSI in just a minute. So, we just highlighted the areas that are common amongst all the buildings. So from a scheduling standpoint, and I'm going to let Chris and Pat take over in just a second, but so we had the bond referendum May 16th, and an amazing amount of work has already been done, of which the key element is this first piece, which is submission to SED for what we're calling the first phase of effort, which really is the site reconstruction elements at most of the buildings and the roofing work, which I wish we had a better answer for the slow pace in which SED operates, but one of the reasons why we wanted to accelerate a portion of the work is so we could get some work going next summer. The only way to do that was really to segment out roof reconstruction and site work, which SED considered it being level 1 work, which is an expedited review process right now, which, by the way, is changing next year, so we're just coming in under the wire on probably the last round of what SED will be considering a level 1 review. So what that means is that that work has been submitted. It will be reviewed in a shortened time frame instead of 9 months, which is the normal time frame. We probably in a 3 to 5 month window. And again, there's no guarantees there, but that's typically what they've been doing, which allows us to bid work and get some work done next summer. So we'll get into some more details with that in just a second, but I'm going to turn it over to Chris.
What you see here is, as Kirk said, is where we are currently between the phase 1 and the phase 2. The phase 1 work went into SED. We're anticipating that return is coming back here in March, which will enable us to go out to bid April to May, about a 2-month period of time there, where we put a bid package together, define the schedule, and put that out to bidders. Once that starts, we're going to move into construction here in May, and the construction on this is going to extend, you'll see in a minute on my next slide, over 2 summers. And the reason there is that we're doing a lot of roofing work, as we said, that's critical, and there's only so much that we can take on in a given summer in terms of having too much going on. So what we've done is we're working through the prioritization of what buildings go first, which Paul has a great handle on. He knows where his problematic roofs are, and we're going to take on some of those in the first summer and some of those in the second summer. The other component to that is there is some work that has to be done kind of in concert with that roof replacement at the underside of the deck and some structural issues that need to be addressed. So we're kind of holding that for the second summer so that at that point we have the other phase 2 going, and we'll have a general contractor on board so that structural steel work that needs to be done can be performed by the general trades contractor as part of that during that second summer. So split. The second component, the phase 2 piece, is the balance of the project other than the site work and the roofing work that have been identified. And we're working through that again right now with designing that and developing that. So the SED will go in May of 18 and anticipated reviews by November, and then it puts us in a position to bid in the fall of 18, which is a great time to bid. Frankly, that's when you want to be receiving those bids is in the last quarter of the year and the first quarter of the following. Contractors are looking for work. Followed that will be the construction in May of 19 all the way through August of 20. So in total, let me just here. So in total here, and I probably can't read a lot of this up here, but the upper section, if I have a laser here, the upper portion of that, the 3 yellow bars that you see graphically there represent the summers, and I did that. You have it in front too. Thank you. The yellow bars there graphically represent the summers, and you can see that the upper portion of this is the phase 1. It's broken into two phases of construction. The blue bars that you see, and that gap in between doesn't necessarily mean nothing is happening. We're gonna try and tease out some work activities that could kind of happen in between there, but the lion's share of the work will happen during those summer months. And then the phase 2 component to that kind of follows suit, and you can see that once we are into that second summer, the ability to have the general trades contractor on board to do some of that structural work related to the phase 1 scope. So, and then I think Amanda, you're up next. You're going to speak a little bit more in detail about what those scopes are.
Absolutely. Oh, I touched it. So we just wanted to give you a quick idea of what is specifically in phase 1 and in phase 2. So you could know what's going on each summer and what the plans are. We're going to start with phase 1. These 2 phases we're calling phase 1 and phase 1 IT. They're actually 2 separate projects with 2 separate SED numbers. Those have been submitted to the state as of this week. So they will be logged in, and they'll get into the queue at SED, so we should start that clock for a review time frame, which Kirk mentioned is probably around 3 to 5 months, although we can't guarantee that, but that is our hope and what we're planning for. So in phase 1, which will be the 2 summers you see up there, 2018 through 2019, is really that level 1 alteration work. So it's re-roofing at all schools, with the exception of the middle school, which has your newer roof on it because it's one of your newer buildings. And we're doing all of the roofs at all the other buildings except for Hastings-Mallory, which is only getting half of the building re-roofed because you've done that in a previous project, so that doesn't need to be done. Along with the re-roofing, we also need to do some structural reinforcing. So when you remove a roof and put a new roof on, typically with the energy code, we're finding that you have to put more insulation on the roof. That's really what you want to do because you want to keep the heat in your buildings. But with that, we had our structural engineer evaluate all of your roofs. Most of your buildings are of an era of 1960. So with that being said, the requirements, the drifting loads, things that we look at now were different in those days. So there are areas that our structural engineer has identified that will need to be reinforced. And we've been working with Turner to coordinate those things. So that will occur probably most likely in the second summer, but we're still looking at that. So it's just something that's necessary and associated with the re-roofing. And then finally in that phase 1 is the site work, and Tim is actually going to show you some of the highlights of that. I don't have specific slides on the re-roofing. Unfortunately, it's not very exciting, but Tim has some more exciting things in terms of site work that I think you'll be interested in. And before we do that, I just wanted to mention phase 1 IT. As you know, this past summer, there was some IT work and some upgrades that happened with your wireless infrastructure. This is essentially part 2 of that. So that has been submitted to the state. That will include a phone system replacement across the district, as well as coming back around and doing some more wiring and connectivity between your buildings that wasn't able to be done this past summer. So that has also been submitted to SED, and we're expecting the review about the same time as the other one.
Hey, Amanda?
Yes.
I'm not sure if it's for you or someone else, but with the additional code and insulation requirements, before we are done or started on that part of the project, is there any calculation as far as the impact that'll have on reducing heating costs? Or I know it'll be a very rough calculation at best, but
we can probably do that. We would need to involve our engineers with that. They would be the ones that would really help with that. I mean, I think we can probably give you a general idea. You know, we really look at the R value and what we need to do to increase that. But yeah, that's definitely something that we could do for you if you were interested in that.
okay, thanks.
Because it will make a difference. So I did mention I'm going to turn it over to Tim. I don't have anything specifically on the roofing slides because it wouldn't show much, but he's going to talk a little bit about the turf and the track replacement.
One quick thing about the roof. Was this not identified originally as an issue?
The structural reinforcing,
right.
it was actually. We had a line item per building.
Okay.
Before the project passed, we didn't want to go through that exercise, just in terms of cost. But we did have a specific line item that was figured into each roofing line item
Yeah,
to
I know we
budget
had roof in there. I just wasn't sure if the reinforcement was
Yes,
part of
it was.
Okay.
We didn't do a separate line item, but it was in our
Okay.
overall estimate in each building, yes.
It
It appears on the back, it's $12 million of the 40.8 million.
Right.
I mean, it's a big number.
It is. And I would just say this is not uncommon for any of the buildings we're working at in New York State right now, because they're all of similar vintage of when they were built. And with the new energy code, what's happening is the buildings are safe, right? So this isn't an issue there. But what's happening now is where we used to have lower insulation values, and we actually literally melt the snow before it became a weight problem. We don't have that anymore. We're actually adding so much insulation that we're actually drifting more snow, and so the weight requirements and the code requirements are much different now than what they were. And so we're going in most of our school buildings and finding areas, mostly along parapets and other areas where there's a possibility for a larger collection of snow, that we're having to reinforce to make sure that we're accommodating that different requirement now.
Yeah, I've got a question before we go. Now, I'm new to the board, so you have to
Sure,
kind
of
of get me
course.
up to speed. So are we going to be removing all the abandoned equipment as part of the roof project? So is
We
there
are.
any- So
Yes.
all abandoned equipment's coming off?
Yeah, our mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineers also did drawings as part of the roof submission. They surveyed the roof, so we are going to cap some of those areas. There will be some unit replacement as required that was included in phase 2. We'll take care of that when we re-roof, and some of it we'll have to come back and do.
Okay, thanks.
Hi. So I was fortunate enough to be part of the original stadium project back in 2003, I think is when we finished that carpet. The synthetic turf at your current stadium has reached its maximum useful life. Typically, these systems last anywhere between 10 and 15 years. Paul and his maintenance crew has done an excellent job of maintaining the facility to the condition that it's in, but there's only so much you can do. It's kind of like a worn-out carpet. UV degradation kind of splits the fibers up to the point where it needs to be replaced. Unfortunately, you've hit that kind of timing perfectly. By the time we get into it next year, we should be able to replace that carpet without an issue. Technology has kind of changed with some of the other systems that are around the track facility, some of the drainage systems, some of the long jump, triple jump pits, those type of things. We're replacing those D zones with more, better improved systems. I've been working with Paul and your entertaining athletic director, Mr. Dranzik, on kind of turf selection. Some of the newer technology that is out there. We've went on a couple of site visits. We've looked at a couple of different carpet systems. They have a couple of ideas. The graphics that you see there, we're currently still working on several different graphics, and I think Paul had mentioned that it would be a committee decision on the exact graphics that I'm sure that you guys, or I'm not sure would be a part of that, but we've got time. The options are endless. This is just one of the options that we're actually showing up on there as far as different colored lines and different graphics and logos that you guys might have. I think we're also replacing the track surfacing itself. That has reached the end of its useful life. There's some structural cracks that are out there on the asphalt. We're going to end up milling your track asphalt up and installing a new track surface, as well as, I think, improving some of the field events that are around there. But overall, the integrity of the asphalt, the subgrade, the subbase, the drainage that was installed is pretty much still intact. This is more or less getting kind of the surface stuff that's falling apart and cracking along the edges and those type of things. So here's another kind of we did a 3D video initially as well that we can kind of share with you guys that you can use on your website. This is just another graphic kind of showing that I can give to Maureen or something like that if you guys want to use that for communication. Is there any questions on that stadium?
How many different types of layers of carpet are there out there? 2 or 3 decent ones?
Of carpet?
Of different types. There's different types, obviously, that you guys are looking at, right? You have looked at.
Yeah, there's different level. You type of synthetic turf carpet.
Yeah.
Well, generally, they'll put them in kind of 3 different categories, especially just for football. I don't get too technical. There's 3 different kinds. There's a monofilament, a slit film, and then there's a blended product. And they all have pluses and minuses to all of them. I'm presenting all of those to Paul and to Jim and to kind of evaluate what would be the best fit for you guys. And I certainly, obviously, being such a long client of yours, I wouldn't want to introduce a product that has kind of fallen out of favor or failed in any way, shape, or form. It's going to be a product that's going to last you, obviously, 10 to 15 years as well, especially with the great maintenance that you guys have here.
I volunteer to get tackled on it.
I mean, there's actually a little bit of site work at each of the schools. I think we try to do a really good job of the limited resources that were kind of designated as far as site was concerned, because it's an incidental expense to be designated at each of the schools. But we're trying to do a little bit of, obviously, paving replacement and some curb replacement, some sidewalks in a couple of your schools. But Paul wanted me to bring this one up to you. This is obviously Brewerton Elementary, and there's a tremendous traffic concern there as far as parent drop-off and separation of the buses and buses trying to get into the bus loop. So this is just an idea. This is an option that we actually sent in the state education department to kind of as a placeholder. This adds an extra drive lane into that parent drop-off area off of Miller Circle Drive there to the I'm going to say to the east, so that parents can kind of go down a little bit further, come up this drive, come around the circle, drop off along the edge of the building, and then kind of pull out, kind of gaining a little bit more space. It's a lot of bang for a little buck. And then we also widened the bus loop a little bit to allow a little bit more buses to park in there so they're chevron style and kind of can get out of the road and get out of that intersection as well. I don't know if, Paul, you have any comments on this, but it certainly was something that would help. Is anybody not familiar? I mean, currently there's only one driveway off of Miller Circle Drive there, and I think it's closest to the intersection too, Paul, right? Yeah, so that it kind of creates a kind of stacking issue there, where this kind of gives a lot more linear space for parents to be able to come in and get off of the road, and stack and drop and pick up their children. Yes, sir.
Will that forward circle be lined appropriately? Because there's a couple of parking spaces in there that are quite unique.
Currently?
Well,
or now?
As per the diagram, if it makes this shape finally, will it be lined appropriate to kind of give the bus drivers a target to shoot for?
Oh, the bus drivers,
yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we would end up putting lines on there. What we'd like to do is actually, after we mill off the asphalt there, we'll actually temporarily stripe out the lines. Let the bus, we did it at the middle school when we originally did the big bus loop there. We temporarily stripe it, let the buses kind of pull up there, practice that pull up, whatever adjustments they need to make, they make those adjustments so that the permanent lines are exactly how they want them. So any questions on that?
The only question I had, and Paul, I'm familiar with the building and the grounds, but I can't picture everything in my head. There seems to be a tremendous amount of parking on the road there. So this looks like we're adding 8 spaces. Is the just land use and the way it's laid out, does it not allow us to go more than that, or are we? Okay. So that's good. So I'm just noting that for later in the presentation. Well, that'll be a good discussion point.
Can I just you said you're going to widen the area where the buses are going to be? Because there's not a lot of...
There's not. Again, obviously you're stuck with your site, but we're trying, I think we gained at least 10 feet probably in there. You're right. But it's enough to kind of try to get them at least chevron slightly at an angle. I think they're pulling up a little bit straighter now, which is obviously they're sticking out into the end of the road there. This kind of pulls them up into the loop a little bit, just enough. It's not perfect.
Right.
But I don't know. I'm not sure who built a school, like 100 feet off the road, back in the day. But you're kind of stuck. But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You're picking the 10 feet coming out towards 11,
Correct.
obviously.
Yeah, into the lawn area. And obviously, Paul's very sensitive to areas to store snow and things like that. He doesn't want any of that taken away.
In this schematic here, it's called bus 1, the first bus in. Is that closer to 11 than they typically are now?
I think so. I think it pulls up a little bit closer.
Is there any thought been given to the kids going out to that bus? Is there some sort of partition that could be put up roadside, maybe a small fence or something? I don't know what the risk would be, but just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I'm not 100% positive how far the first bus comes up. Paul, do you know how far? Yeah. I mean, we could certainly look at that, and I probably should put eyes on exactly how far they come up, just to kind of know that. But you're right, it is a little close. I get nervous, and there's parents pulled up all along Route 11 and everything else. So that's the more dangerous part. Obviously, parents trying to drop off up there and stopping on Route 11. trying to get them at least into the site. It's not a perfect solution, but I guess with the funds that we're allowed to use here, this is the biggest bang for our buck that we could get, at least to show some sort of
Yeah, and there's usually
change.
teachers, TAs out
Yeah.
there getting the kids on and off the bus.
And that's still important, and I would never get rid of that. That's great.
It's good. Better than it is today.
Phase 2.
So we're actively working on phase 2 while we were working on phase 1. We've been in the district for several days, both ourselves, Tim from Appel, IBC Engineering, surveying your building. So while we've still been working on phase 1, we've also been working on phase 2. So you can see that's essentially the balance of the scope. So just generally the masonry reconstruction, any mechanical, electrical, plumbing work, exterior door and window replacement at various buildings, some flooring replacement, and then the things that you'll really see are the gym renovations at the high school and the auditorium reconstruction. So we're currently working on drawings and specifications, and we'll continue to work on those through the coming months. We are planning currently for a submission to SED of May of 2018. So once we do that submission, we'll get back comments. We're probably looking at around 9 months for that review time. As of right now, we can't guarantee what that time frame will be, as we've said, but that's what we're expecting. So that will allow, hopefully, for a summer start in 2019 for that phase 2 work. So in the coming months, our next steps is in January, we're planning to set up key stakeholder meetings to discuss the auditorium, the gymnasium, and then the Hawk elementary renovations. Those are the key areas design-wise that will probably, that need the most input from the district. So we will be setting those groups up. I think that we mentioned maybe we would like to have some board members involved in those meetings. They'll include, the teachers, the staff, the district administration, and possibly invite some board members to come. There'll be several meetings that will really work with that group to develop the designs for those key spaces. So there's more to come on that. We don't have those scheduled quite yet, but we're working on it. Is there any questions about phase 2 and that process?
Did I hear you say a 9-month submission
Yeah,
timeline?
it is.
9 months.
We'd like it to be better, but right now that's about what we've been looking at, and it's gone up to a year. So it goes back and forth.
I just wonder, what needs to be done in the high school gymnasium, what renovations are?
We're specifically looking at the floor. That floor is older, some of the wall pad replacement, just making sure your operable partitions, whether we replace them totally or reuse the ones you have and just do some upgrades to the motors. We're still looking at that. So just sort of a facelift. Unlike the auditorium, that's going to be a full gut renovation, essentially. Take everything down from the walls in and rebuild that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
One last question. So the gym and the auditorium are all done in the summer? Do I have that correctly or no? Will we lose time during educational time?
That's what we're still looking at.
Okay.
Most likely, you will lose a little bit of time. I don't think, we don't know yet really the extent of that work, so I can't really tell you how long you're going to be affected. But most definitely, the auditorium, we can't get that done in a summer, most likely. Chris would probably weigh in on that, but we'll have more information once we know exactly what we're doing.
And I just have one last question.
Sure.
We are on the phase 1 early package design. We're guaranteed to get our review done by the March of 18, correct? That's
No.
No.
No, there's no guarantee.
I apologize because I thought that's what we heard. So that could stretch out.
It could stretch out.
Which will affect summer work, correct?
It will, yes. Yes. If SED does not get back for any reason.
That's why, Kirk, we originally, when we had the meeting, and I let the board know, that it could be delayed, so we were talking about spring and summer seasons both being affected. Spring and fall seasons both being affected.
For the track and the turf, yes.
Yeah, I mean, there's really nothing, well, there are no guarantees with SED, so we don't.
Really?
Ever, yes.
Never.
Imagine that. So, yeah,
That was
so
sarcastic.
We don't want to give anybody any, false sense of security that this is a done deal. But given the historical nature of their reviews for level 1 projects, we're fairly comfortable that that'll be the time frame in which we'll get it. And so there's nothing right now that's telling us that anything's going to be affected too drastically. But so we're all collectively optimistic that we're on track for getting that work done in the summertime.
Hence my clarification for the community, though. It is important that that stems on the March 18th
Yes.
review is complete and done by SED.
Correct.
So I think it's important for the board and out to the community that they understand that if that doesn't hit, that it's all pushed back.
Right. Yeah, so we wanted to give ourselves, the district, the best opportunity to be able to hit that first summer window. And so we've met those deadlines so far, and now it's really in the hands of SED. So we'll keep you posted if we see any changes in that.
Absolutely. Yep.
I have one quick follow-up. When you were talking about phase 2, in here it looks like you have a 6-month time frame for SED review, but when you were just talking, I thought you said it's 9 months to a year? Is that?
Yeah, it varies.
Okay.
On the schedule here, the bar chart says, yes, we have 7 months is what's in here for the review period.
Okay.
The review periods go up and down,
Okay.
unfortunately. 7 months is probably the middle ground of that. And
Okay.
Have we seen it take longer? Yes. Have we seen it taken less? Yes.
Okay.
So,
We're kind of constantly tracking that and updating accordingly, so that's why you see the.
That's fine. I saw 6 to 7 months,
Yeah.
and then you
Correct.
said
No,
9
you
to
are
12,
correct.
so I was just wondering if these
Yeah.
timelines were most likely to happen, or this is best case, and you're talking about worst case?
It's a little bit of both. We basically, they update the website on a weekly basis. Sometimes it's correct and sometimes it's not, so.
And is it purely we're blown by the wind, or is there anything proactively, when I say we, you, us, anyone that we haven't listed in the project that can do, if it does get stuck, is there anything lobbying that can be done to improve that, or is it just?
So I wouldn't want to say there's nothing you can do, but believe me, every district in the state of New York has pulled out whatever they might be able to do given, emergency circumstances. So there's very little you can do, even going to legislators and other folks to try and push things. So, so one thing about SED that they've been very consistent with is they really provide no special exceptions to really anybody, because once they do that, the floodgates are open, and then everybody else expects that same thing. So,
On that, we'll confirm. Customer service from SED is sucky for everyone.
but again, we keep an eye on it, and I also want to point out there's 2 separate reviews. There's an architectural review and a mechanical review. The architectural side of it is actually very quick. But we can't get an approved project in totality until we have both reviews completed. It's the mechanical review, which is the longest because they're the shortest staffed on the SED side of things. They're trying to hire engineers and have been for the last couple of years to fill that gap, and they've actually made some headway. So we expect some of these review periods to start to come down. Plus, I know you're aware of potentially the city BOCE's process that might be in place. So there's things that are unknown at this time that could help, but we'll have to wait and see.
I would just like to close in, you folks display a level of confidence from one board member's perspective that is very comforting. And I know you guys are going to do a heck of a job with this, so thank you.
Well, you're welcome. I just want to leave you one last comment, though, and that has to do with CSI, because I know we've come through a bit of a different route with CSI. Before we got started, there was already a conversation in place about the use of CSI in conjunction with a lease program with City BOCES. That has not exactly come to fruition the way that it was originally intended to. So now we have this building, and I just want to point out that we have a lot of experience with other districts, including one very close to you, North Syracuse, where we've gone through a series of very significant renovations at all of their buildings as well. And what we've always been looking for is the ability to have surge or flex space available in the district to accommodate some of these renovations. Because as you talked about, is there going to be program affected? CSI allows the potential opportunity for future work to keep that building intact within the district for use as swing space, particularly in the cases of like Millard Hawk's very significant renovation work, where you have the potential of accommodating program space within CSI that would free up that building in totality to the contractors to really go in and do their work most efficiently. So I can tell you over the years, as we've explored this with other districts, including East Syracuse, Manoa, North Syracuse, that ability to have property available for potentially the district's use for different movement of students would not only allow for kind of continuity of program and not disrupting the school year, but also just overall safety and phasing of work during the school year in the building, which also could potentially add the costs. And so moving forward, this team will be evaluating the potential use of CSI in that format, even as close as, coming up in the next 2 summers.
So Kirk, I've got a quick question about that.
Yes.
So originally when you planned that out and you planned the money and what it would cost with the capital project, we didn't know, because at that point Chris still thought that he was going to be able to have all the programming needs met at CSI, which we know that's not happening. So given that and the way that that's bid out, do you foresee, because I have to believe that there's going to be some cost savings there from what you originally planned, that maybe some of that money can then go to things like we were talking about with the Brewerton parking lot and other things that we weren't foreseeing, having that savings opportunity we can now move into other areas?
Potentially, yeah. I know, look, this is all hypothetical on paper right now, and so we've done this cost analysis in other districts, and Chris will tell you this from their perspective. Whenever you can give the contractors as much space to go and efficiently work their crews through a cycle of work instead of doing a classroom wing and then jumping to another classroom wing, it in theory will save costs. And what that number is, nobody knows, because it's based on the economy and the bidding climate and a whole bunch of other factors. But having that, number one, as available for the district to use so that they can maintain a consistent educational program and less disruption, but also having the potential to be able to do that from a phased approach is wonderful. I know just recently in North Syracuse we went through this with a very similar process that we're talking about here with Millard Hawk. We were looking at the old Chase Pickens store on Taft Road. We were looking at the old Burlington Coat Factory, but those were not, educational spaces. You have a ready-to-go solid building in CSI that without a lot of work you could move right into. And so yes, we've already allocated some of that funding, from CSI into some of the other areas, and we'll continue to evaluate that as we do the cost exercises with Turner.
And when we do those cost exercises, you're also able to get definitive answer for us if the state would then, seeing that there would be students in that building for a couple of years as swing space, because after MHE is done, we can look over at Hastings and what we're going to do with those students. So I got to assume that we're going to be getting full. Okay, great.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because we were just talking about this. Pat and I were chatting about this. So we have an empty building right now, which in SED's eyes does not generate any aid for any work. But if we have a committed program to utilize that building even as swing space, you can work that aidability in to help supplement some of the work potentially even at Millard Hawk. And so it really provides you as a district a huge amount of flexibility for, in the short term, over the next 3 years with this capital project and even further down the road with future capital project work.
Yeah, and then the good thing too is the fact that we would be able to still have the same technology down there, is we could tap into the neighboring schools. In my last career as an elementary principal, we went through this over at ESM, and they had St. Mary's, and people were all worried about it, but they were literally getting all the technology from Minoa Elementary, which is right across the street. So it's the exact same situation.
Correct. So that's our presentation. You're up to date.
Great. I don't have any questions. I did want to mention one thing, though. Sorry, Kirk, I'm going to maybe embarrass you a little bit in public, but no, when we were at the school board convention last month up in Lake Placid, Kirk was presenting, I was asking Tom, I think I have it right, in a session, it was basically about CTE, and I think it was in conjunction with Syracuse City School District. So not, and I don't know if it's officially or not, but not so much as King and King, but because Kirk, it sits on, I think, the advisory board or something for that. So, and I commented at the time, King and King as an organization is way more than just in business doing education. This isn't a sales pitch for him. You know, Kirk on his own time is doing this stuff, and he is invested in education. So I'm thrilled that they're the firm we're working with. So thank you for doing that.
We have a lot of good folks, including Jim King and other folks, and I mean, we're all committed to improving education in New York State. So it's not just about doing architecture, which we love to do. So,
okay.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for the presentation.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
All right.
You know what? Before we move on, I just want to kind of put a rumor to rest. I don't know. I guess it's a rumor if 5 people say it, maybe 6. But Hastings.
Was it on Facebook?
Was it on Facebook, audience? No? Maybe it was. Hastings, no one on this board is talking about closing Hastings. I don't know where that came about, if people were talking about swing space and got confused. But I just want to put that right out there. That's not happening. Good deal.
Yeah, and actually I was going to kind of do the same thing in just wrapping up that presentation to say publicly so that it's part of, you know, the official record, since millions of people will watch this starting tomorrow. That, you know, the board knows this obviously, but City BOCES has leased CSI for this year, and we have come to agreement. We know that there's no intent to go forward with that beyond this year. So part of the reason we're talking about swing space is because we're able to, and we'll be talking probably a little bit more about it in a few minutes in our board goals. So.
Yeah, and I just kind of want to just build upon that. Nobody was duped on our end. Chris had every intention. Assignments were given out to for BOCES workers to be working over there. It was just that after a couple times that they had went through, it was a meeting with King and King, and they literally broke down how much electricity would have to be put in, seeing that for the programming that he had originally planned to go long-term at CSI, there would have to have a substantial capital project for just that building. And it was much more than what we would want to put on our taxpayers. So at that point, this board realized that moving forward, we agreed with Chris, and that our parting ways would allow us to use it for swing space, which we could desperately use.
All right, that brings us to the community open forum section. We don't have any blue cards, so it's the quickest one ever. Well done. With that, I will make a motion that the Central School Board of Education approve the minutes for November 6th and 13th. Can I get a second? Second, Mr. McCarthy. Any discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous. All right. With that, we'll go to unfinished business. So the first one is the Board of Education goals. And I think all of you in your folders should have, I guess yours would be on white paper. It says draft at the top. And for anyone that submitted some info today, I apologize. It may not have made this sheet, but I did print it out just before I got here. So this is a kind of open discussion, so we can definitely incorporate it. I took out names. So on your draft one, what I did is I tried, at the time that I printed this off, which was late last night, I believe, I took off names just so that no one felt like they had to defend or not defend something they put in there. But I think I captured anything that was in there as of last night, and then there were some additional submissions today that we can talk through. But the draft goals for the board, this is so that when we do our self-evaluation, we have some specifics and something measurable we can go off of. The 4 goals are verbatim based off the superintendent's goals, and then the measurements underneath are really things that hopefully we as a board can do, impact, control, and measure ourselves on to impact that. So with that, I'll just kind of open it up if anyone has any thoughts, and while they're doing that, I'm going to find the sheet that I printed off with the other feedback. There we go.
I'm going to comment on the goal number 4, partnership with the district and the community. I think, well, Tom, with the Chamber of Commerce, Tom is involved with that. I guess I'm wondering how we will move forward, or, I mean, are we going to attend these meetings, or how are you going to judge the business community involvement? Because they're pretty involved right now.
Yeah, well, I can jump in too. Part of that's going to be the College and Career Readiness Committee. And I know that Andy, I checked with legal, and technically they advised to not have a quorum unless you hold it public, which we got 84 people. I mean, it's pretty public. So if all you'd have to do is say that's going to be public and anybody can come to that, that's going to be a great opportunity to see, because at each one of those tables, we've got a bunch of business owners, local and greater area. So just in that committee in itself, as it makes its way through, and judging that will be once this committee comes up with the attributes of a Central Square graduate and continuously working on the pathways. That's just another one, and it does mention it, but doesn't actually come out and say College and Career Ready.
Right, because that's your goal, whereas this is frankly ours. So, I mean, so Tom's already identified, you develop the committee, you're going to structure it, you're going to report in on it, but then for us, we're going to have pretty good involvement. You know, it looks like, I don't know, Pearl, I don't have the official numbers. I think we had 5 or 6 that were definitely interested. So we can...
Businesses?
No, I'm talking board members.
So, board, yeah.
So
okay.
our measurement is that we're involved and actively participating. And I just want to add to what Tom said. So when that committee meets, we're going to post it as a district, just like our board meetings. So anyone in the public can attend. They don't participate like the 84 members, but they can attend and watch if they want to. And so it's an open meeting. We can all participate if we want to. So we're good there. I don't know if that answers.
No, it doesn't.
All right. So
I want to know how you want the businesses to be involved with the business community to be involved with our school district when a lot of them are involved now. I mean, how much further they participate with scholarships. A lot of our businesses do all of that. You go to Chamber of Commerce meetings, are involved with a lot of that stuff. I guess I'm just wondering how we as board members are going to adapt and go forward getting the business community more
Andy,
involved.
Does my comment address that in any way, shape, or form?
Let me get your comment. So, sorry, I'm looking at it here. You mind if I read it, Mike?
No, not at all.
All right.
Just take the name out.
Mike had added, and it's not on your copy, but invite the local as well as regional elected reps, business owners, and industry leaders to speak at our board meetings in order to present their view on the direction of education so that we and parents may better understand the direction in which the district needs to move to best support students and their needs. So I think that's a good point. That's a tactical, measurable thing. We can invite them to speak. I think that'd be great. I also think, part of the whole district and community partnership, to Lori's point, there are a lot of scholarships. I sat through that scholarship session last year, and the amount of money given out, and quite frankly, we may individually sometimes, but as a board, I think we ought to recognize the businesses to do that. It's probably be good to send an official, thank you, recognition. I think that fosters good relationships, because right now, we're all thankful for it, but I don't know that we do a whole lot to show it as a board. And so I think that's something tactical we should make a point of doing.
One of the things, too, is we decided to have the superintendent parent council meetings. We don't have them at the high school anymore. We actually have them. I had the idea to have them actually at the businesses. So last week it was the Two Guys. Next one, I believe it's going to be our diner. Or I think it might actually have been the Brewerton Diner. It's everyone that's not only in chamber, that are a member of the Chamber of Commerce, but that are, actively, participate in fundraising for our schools, and then I buy the people food. So it's a good way to pay back the local business people for doing great things for our kids. So that's that. And also, the Chamber of Commerce is going to send 2 of their members to every one of our superintendent parent councils, because we definitely see coexistence, that we need each other. The local businesses need the district to thrive, and the district needs the local businesses to thrive. So we're really about building that partnership even more.
Thank you.
Does anybody on the board remember a program that Cleveland put out there where they had any businesses that donated to the school district? They got like a little, I don't know, sticker or placard or something that they could post in their business saying they supported the school district. Does anybody remember that?
I don't, but.
No. What was his name, the principal that was there?
Mike Heath?
Mike Heath. Yeah.
I can check with him.
Yeah, because he set something like that up just for Cleveland. And I'm saying we could probably do that on a district level, where like if someone had donated, they gave us breakfast for something or for some program, gave them a little, doesn't have to be expensive, but something that shows that they support the district. And that way when community members come in, they see they support the district, and it kind of embraces like the community, And that's not my idea, that's his idea. So I don't want to take.
He's superintendent now at Chittenango, so I
Yeah.
talk to him from time to time. I can check.
That's a great point. So on 4, we can wordsmith it and have another draft at the next meeting, but would it work for everyone? I think it captures everything we just talked about. If we take the first bullet point under measurements for goal 4 and say that we'll work with elected representatives and business communities by inviting them to present at the board meeting, and then we can work out the details on that, but does that kind of capture what we're talking about? And then, since we're on 4, just any issues to bullet point number 2, which would be develop a community partnership section of the website so that we're promoting what we are doing, and also an area I think where the community can go, whether you're a business owner, parent, whatever, and provide some feedback on what you think as a district we can do better, seeking their input and advice. So those would be the 2 kind of measurable things that as a board, when we review ourselves, we'll say we either did achieve that or didn't achieve that. All right?
Who will keep that up, Andy? Like,
The community
following up
section?
on, somebody writes in a comment, what are we doing about it? Who's following up on that?
So I think we would leave that, the reality is, all of our bullet points result in more work for the district, but no, I think that would be up to Tom to tell us how we would want that handled.
I'll be honest with you, I would like that because at night, I don't mind going to our website. It's really hard with all the different parent forums out there that people go to ask. If this is centralized and this is something that I can control, that I can go on and see and share with the committee, I think that's great.
I thought we did that. I thought we have a spot. Did we centralize all that? Or did I miss that?
On the Facebook page, we have a district Facebook page where people put stuff on that Heather Shush sees and then lets me know. But this will kind of just be more streamlined just for this.
Okay.
Anything else on goal 4, or are we good enough to say that we can probably move on from that one? All right. Let's just go back to the top then. Goal 1, I apologize, let me refer to my late breaking sheet here. Let me give some comments in addition to what's printed on your sheets. Let's see. Have we provided the opportunity for teachers and school administrators to utilize the proper tools based on today's technology to engage the students in a modern manner, which today's students can relate? Have we seen a statistical improvement or degradation in student performance engagement based on tools that we've implemented? And then another bullet point was develop a 1-3-5-year plan to assess where we should be on the technological curve relative to student development trends. And the final is create a measure of success based on our development of and participation in the College and Career Preparedness Committee, which kind of speaks to what Laura was talking about on 4 to some degree as well. So that was a lot,
Andy.
a lot to absorb.
The hard thing about this is you got to come up with a tangible measure of success. So just saying that you did something or didn't do something, or there's got to be an assessment piece. And that's the trouble with this, is you got to come up with some way of all of us sitting around this panel. Do we get 80% of that done, or do we get 100%? So what you're saying is it's not just the evidence of implementation, it's the evidence of impact. Impact. You've got to have a measure of success. And we don't know what that is, so these are all talking points for now.
Yeah, it is, and that's the thing. It is a good discussion, and it's very difficult, particularly in the fact that, let's face it, goal number 1 is to increase instructional engagement. We're not the 9 people that are going to do that, but what we do impacts it. So how do we how do we measure our ability to impact it?
In
Absolutely.
that, what was just said there, if there's a tool that he's asking for, or admin's asking for, have we been able to provide it in full, in part, or not at all? So that's kind of the stuff we need to quantify, because that's what we can do. We can provide the tools, we can provide the money, you know, maybe some other things, but that's it in general. And that's really what's going on right now. It's kind of at the grassroots level. So we're kind of creating the framework with the technology, the fact that we're going to have the Chromebooks. It's going to be very mobile and dynamic. And at the same time, we have teachers like Brian Hatch at the middle school that's really taking coding to a whole new level. And just talk to students in that building. They all want to be part of that. And it not only that there, but now they're talking about elementary kids have taken it upon themselves, and they're learning coding. And in some school districts, it's happening in 3rd grade. And so all of this starts with us kind of putting the foundation in place and having that environment where the technology is there and readily used, and that's happening right now. And once November, when the governor is going to hit his another stamp of approval, we're in the queue to be one of the schools to get that. So the tools will be there. I'm really excited right now how the teachers are embracing that. Just as early as today, I was in 3 different schools. I could tell you one, I'll give her a shout out to Mrs. Tolson over in Brewerton. I was amazed to see what she was doing with her primary students with Schoology, and how differentiated she had different assignments for the kids based on their level and their level of interest. And when you walked in there, I felt like it was a high school classroom. These are just kids. Yeah, and that's where all this came from, is I took what we're doing now, the college readiness committee, the Chromebooks, all that technology, that's the kind of stuff we need to throw in here, and then we can grade ourselves on that. How's the implementation? How's the utilization? Is the money there? Is the product there? Are the teachers given the tools to actually utilize those tools? That's where we can come in and quantify our results. And that's going to be the great part of college and career, and I don't want to embarrass you or your daughter, but Cameron's now at SU, and she is actually going to be on the College and Career Readiness Committee to say she's just someone that just made that jump to college. What are some things we could have done to better prepare and things like that? That's awesome. So that's all going to be happening. The first meeting is December 6th. Thought I'd get that up there. That's good. Thanks.
Yeah, and I think what Mike's talking about is the differentiate of what we're trying to do here and measure the things that we can impact, because it's more about, like you say, did we do and give the superintendent admin the tools to do what they need. So then what quantifies that is hopefully through the goals, and I've talked about the measurement, where did, by providing that, where did the administration, where did that go? What did that lead us to? Was it more success, less success? But I think, and how we go through this, it should be, what can we do to make sure that you've gotten the things done. It's written down here as far as what's going to be provided and what's going to be committed to as a board. Because, we could say, well, we're going to, measurement is, well, we're going to increase scores. Well, it isn't really what we're here for. This is, we need to provide, did we do what you requested, we provide? And you come to, because it could be, well, we like Chromebooks. No, we're not giving you Chromebooks. Okay, so that would be an impact. But, hopefully we've done what we're set out to do in our goals, and that will result in helping you attain your goals.
And you've already really started, because it was this board that said yes to the 0.6 computer integration specialists for the elementary and the 0.6 for the secondary, and there's just restructuring of that complete department to be able to support teachers. I was in at MHE today, and a veteran teacher said this is great because they had smartboard in the room, but he was using it like 2% of what it could really be done for all this time. And just the past few months, he was blown away at all the other things that he could do with that smartboard with his students to increase engagement. And that's because we're restructuring. The teachers, to no fault of their own, never had that training beyond the initial, here's the smartboard, and maybe one day's training. So that's already something big.
So I am looking for, and this is tough to do on the fly, but these are the rules we're set under with New York. I'm looking for some suggestions on how we incorporate, because I think it is good feedback. It needs to be specific, measurable. So how do we incorporate that into our measurements under Goal 1? So for instance, I think it's a great thing to say, develop a 1, 3, 5-year plan to assess where we should be on the technological curve. So I think when it comes to our review by the end of the year, if we think that's a reasonable time frame, we either have or haven't developed that plan, right? And then that plan becomes how we measure our goals probably for the coming years. But I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth. So is that what you were thinking?
Well, wouldn't we ask for that? Wouldn't we ask for that plan? And then the plan would be provided to us. That would be something that that our goal is to get that. I mean, you don't want me to develop it. Right?
No, exactly.
But,
so the board's measurement under support increased instructional engagement is to direct administration to deliver a 1, 3, and 5-year technological plan, and then measure our support of that ongoing.
Right. So at the end of the year, by that time frame, that it would be done. We would have it presented, adopted, and then we would have met the goal. If we didn't meet the goal, then what was the reason that we could? And you reset it and move on, for next year's goal.
Yeah, and that would be something that
right?
Arena can work with her staff on, and Tom,
Right. And then that development with a 1, 3, and a 5, that automatically turns into the development of the next set of goals for next year.
Right.
Because now we've already got
Yep.
that 1, 3, 5-year plan out. Now we can break that down again and shift right 1 year and do another assessment. And pardon me, but I'm fading rapidly. I've been sick for the last week, so I'm trying to hang with you.
That's great. So as long as everyone here is good with it, we're recording this, which is good because I'm a lousy note taker. So I can take what we just discussed and kind of incorporate that into our bullets and our measurements. But that clearly is probably the biggest one under that measurement. Is everyone good with the first bullet point on your thing? And I had actually mentioned this to Tom simply because, Tom talks about, and other teachers do too, but instructional engagement and differentiated instruction, and Tom's passed around this 4 Ps. And I read it, but that's not my job and my career, right? So I get it in general, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So he thought it would be really good for us to use that 4P process when we do his review, because that will help us understand what all the teachers and our administrators are doing as well, which is the 4 Ps are provide evidence, praise, pose, and propose. So we as a board would need to commit to having Tom give us a little more instruction and detail on that, but then actually utilizing it when the time comes. That helps us, I think, understand what you're asking of all of our staff, and frankly gets us bought into it a little bit more, because right now we say the 4 Ps, but I know when I say it, I have to look at the sheet to even remember what it is. So, what's that?
Have we seen that
Yeah,
already
I
in
put
whole?
it on a Friday. I put it on a Friday memo. When was that? A couple months ago. Basically, when I did that, I wanted to share how I was providing feedback to the principals for all of because the principals have their principal plan that supports their school action plan. And the 4 Ps is just a really easy way to be consistent with what the principals already know. They're going into rooms right now and they're checking for DI, and they're doing like 10-minute visits outside of APPR. And it's not on the teacher's APPR, it's just progress monitoring of their school action plan. And we're really starting to get a lot of buy-in. I know at first teachers were like, well, when I came to this district 3 years ago, a lot of teachers said the one thing that the district office needs to be better at is to have more administrators going into rooms to see all the wonderful stuff that's going on. But I think with that being said, it was kind of a culture change to have administrators in the rooms as much as we are right now. But I think what they're realizing with the 4 Ps, it's just a great way to provide feedback on DI. So they go in and just provide evidence. Then there's always something great that they can praise. And then the posing of questions is really important, because that provides the teacher with an opportunity to showcase the great things that they're doing and maybe why they're putting the kids in different groups. It's the amazing thing. If you just ask a teacher, why did you do that move? There's a tremendous amount of thought that goes into that I think before, without asking that question, I think an administrator walking into the room would never have known, oh, wow, that's why they did that. And then the proposing could be any kind of tools and strategies that would bring that teacher even to the next level. And even for veteran teachers who are phenomenal, there's always room to be able to get another tool or strategy that the kids would be more engaged with. So it's a quick, simple 4P process. It starts out with evidence, so it doesn't become like opinion-based. And then there's always, people like to feel good, they're being praised for something, but then the posing and the proposing bring it to the next level, away from just managerial, and get it more of like the instructional leadership.
Yeah, you got to sell me, Tom. I only ask because I can't remember what I had for lunch.
All right, so so I think we're good on one. It sounds like our 2 bullet points are really around the 4 Ps, and then I'll wordsmith the 1, 3, 5 year plan and measuring off of that. Anything else on goal 1?
That's a May 2018 target, not 17, right? That was just a typo.
Yeah, I wanted to check on that. I'm not sure if you were just doing a placeholder. You would put May 2017, but I assume you meant 2018.
Yeah, I'm good, but I can't go back in time, so, yeah, that was a typo.
All right. All right, so let's go with goal 2 then. Implement sound fiscal practices to support student learning and overall management of the district. And again, it's going to be similar on this one as well. The additional comments that are on your sheet are really around, again, the real measurement. So establish, and Mike, you're going to have to help me with this one, but establish anticipated efficiency rating for each major educational support category, like transportation, maintenance, food services, etc., in order to set quantifiable goals. And then sub-bullets under there, assess district performance bi-monthly to establish trend analysis and provide guidance to staff administration to make course corrections in order to hit the desired goals.
Yeah, basically I'm just trying to, there's a lot of words there just to say all these different departments need to have a target goal, level of efficiency of utilization of their equipment, their funds, et cetera, what we need to provide them, and to see where we're trending. And then we as a board need to be able to react to that and make appropriate adjustments so that we can ensure that we're underrun, overrun, on target, that kind of stuff. I think Steve can probably add to that. He's a lot smarter than I am, so.
So I'm letting the silence hang there for a minute. I love the goal. I'm struggling with how do we come up with those.
If I could have figured it out, I would have put it on paper.
I know.
I don't think that we're going to solve this stuff tonight. These are just talking bullets that we need to reassess and maybe, have some smarter people help us out. I see a lot of smart people in the room, especially those 4 sitting right over there.
Yeah, so, Tom, we're probably going to have to enlist your help through your staff before the next meeting in just giving us some thoughts about it. Because what we certainly don't want to do, and I know this isn't what you're looking for, Mike, is to add a ton of development work on to their already full plates. So what is reasonable, effective? Because let's face it, quite frankly, we're going from not having board goals to having something. So I'm not looking to water it down, but we can take some baby steps.
Yeah, we don't need to make this complicated. I mean, if transportation has got a set of goals, or whatever they may be, fiscal, whatever, equipment-based, just kind of quantify that and say, all right, what do we need to do to better improve their ability to meet or exceed or underrun those goals or exceed those goals.
Yeah, and that's why for this goal, that's why I had as bullet point number 1, implement the most beneficial aspects of the TAS study, which is the full transportation study, right? And I think between now and when we actually adopt these goals, we should probably put some specifics in there because when is that presentation? First meeting in December?
Maureen, do we have that December? Do we bump that one down, the TAS with? Yes.
18th of December, okay.
King.
Okay.
Yeah, because what you're talking about, and I've been discussing the measurement, defining the goals and seeing whether or not you've met them or not is a hard thing to do. This isn't easy. It's hard to do, but it could easily, I'd say easily, you could sit down with your departments and say, okay, here's the superintendent's goals. here's the principal's goals. Okay, how are things going to be met, and how do you and how are you going to ensure that you know what you're trying to meet, right? We want to have bus drivers. We want to have 6 or less accidents a year, right? Or it could be we want to make the runs less than 50 minutes per child event. Whatever it is, I'm not here to define it, but you get with it's a bottom-up approach. What are important? Here's strategic plan. Here's superintendent's goals. How are you going to meet? And then what's the most important two things that success would be defined within these particular categories? So
I think the standby replacement. I'm not thinking straight right now. The bus drivers, the subs, geez, the sub bus drivers. That dilemma right there. You guys have taken an action.
Yep.
Has that action produced the
Yes,
proper
we are getting
result?
more- yes.
And we can take that and quantify that. Did it meet the goal? Did we come up 80%, 110%, whatever? That's an example. That.
yeah, exactly.
No, that's good. That's a good point.
Just to be clear, though, all our departments and Tom and administrators and principals all have goals today.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I mean,
their
those are all
goals
set
clearly identified.
those are done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. This is really more us. It's the rubber meets the road. It is, are we doing what we can to, one, not be in their way of achieving their goals, but more importantly, to actually help them achieve the goals, right?
Yeah,
I
by
agree,
you
sir.
guys allowing us to raise the sub pay, that was huge, and getting more subs. It needed to be done. It came out of the TAS report that said to do that, and we did.
And the goal could be, our goal is we need 15 more subs, and in order to do that, we need to raise the pay by 15. And then we got 20, so we exceeded our goal. We only got 10, so obviously,
Sure.
and it's that revalidation of what we're trying to do, and for us, and say, well, we raised the, I don't want to be June and say, hey, whatever happened to that sub race thing? Did we ever get any positive things from it? But if we understand what we want to look at, what's important to us is our goals, and then say, so if you get asked, you can quantify it. We're not just.
And some of this stuff is retrospectively.
Right.
The perspective is we've already done some of this stuff.
Yep.
Because we don't have goals sitting in front of us. We've already done it, so we can take credit for some of that.
Correct.
So let's build that into the equation.
Yep.
Right, but so I think under every single one of these goals, the number one goal or measurement for us is, did we provide transportation, the school lunch program, Tom, the teachers, did we provide them with the ability to accomplish the goal that we're now sharing with the superintendent? So for instance, I don't know that last year, had we established goals, we would have said a measurement, I don't know that we would have said that, but the problem was brought to our attention and we addressed it, relatively quickly. So I don't know if we're getting putting too much work on all of these folks who've created their own goals to now create goals for us, which, helping them accomplish their goals is really our number one job under every single one of these provisions. So to try to, I agree that a goal, I don't know if goal is the right term for our role then, because if it's a goal, we want to try to achieve it. But other than giving them the resources and making decisions that support them to achieve their goals, I mean, to ask them to quantify, okay, ask John Pierce to tell us, well, this year I really want to hire 15 more subs, and I think the only way I'm going to do that is if you increase. I mean, that's really the only way we're going to get measurable, like, did we check that off the box? And I don't know that we're going to know that until they find the way to accomplish their goals. So I feel like this could end up being a process where we're constantly ping-ponging balls back and forth about whether we're achieving goals instead of actually achieving them. So that's just my 2 cents.
And we have the constraints of our budgets too, so that's, we've only got so much to,
Which, again, plays into what we're doing. I mean, it was a very, very big lift. I didn't think I'd become a superintendent and then the first year and a half negotiate 11 contracts, but we are, and that will be done. And our goal is to be able to move into the consortium now. February 1st is what our goal is. And in doing that, that's going to be a substantial, millions of dollars of savings to the district. So all of these things to me and to cabinet are all connected. So when we sit down and we have our regular cabinet meetings, we're constantly looking at how we can save the money and then put that into program for our students and what that's going to look like. We are sending 49 more kids to CTE half day than we did last year. The kids came in and said, I want to be in welding. I want to, you know what I mean? We're not going to say no. So then how do we now look at that and we build our budgets to be able to do that? So some things is planned abandonment we were not doing. We could look at that. We were very fortunate to have 26 teacher retirees and not replace 11 of them when we had some core classes at the high school with 8 or 9 kids in a class. Didn't make sense. That wasn't a good use of funds. No fault to anybody there. It wasn't the teacher's fault. We just need to be able to look at that, consolidate, and not replace when people retire. And we constantly are looking at that.
So, Tom, was it somebody's goal to enhance or increase CTE registration or participation, right?
Well,
or not really?
I don't want to say it's the goal to. It's the goal to accommodate the students' needs.
Right?
Correct.
Which is you walked right into it, and that's going to change every year.
Absolutely.
So that's, I think, to Christie's point, we're more the drivers of supporting those things.
Correct.
I'm just not sure, and that's where until Christie said I was struggling. I'm not sure how to articulate that on paper. That's where I'm at. So.
No, I agree, because there is this balancing act of not being too general and not being too specific. So, for instance, what we were just talking about, I think, anyway, is captured in here under Goal 3, develop policies and procedures that encourage both lifelong learning and multiple pathways post-high school. I mean, that's what we're talking about, right? Now, then, we can say we did it, but how do you quantify that?
I'll give you one. So we're going to be coming up with needing an advisor. And right now, Jeff King and Connie is trying to really figure out, based on the clubs that already exist, what level should the advisor be for it's called STAR. So it's kind of a junior ROTC program. Remember the person we spoke with up there? So she already came, met with Jeff, Connie. Jeff's doing a fantastic job taking the lead on that. And the goal in that is to bring an ROTC program to Central Square. Seeing that is a pathway, and we have so many students who have family members that were in the military, it seems like a great opportunity and a missed opportunity currently. We used to have it back in the day, and I think that's another great thing to bring back. So when we come to you and say, okay, we're going to have another club advisor to be in the room while the military people take this all on, that's another example of how you guys are supporting it.
All right, so I think we have plenty of discussion points there. It's captured on video, which is a good thing. So if there's no objection, I'll call a halt to that discussion for tonight. We can pick it up again at the next meeting. But I think that it really does put some good meat on the bone for us to work with. And I do just want to follow up with what Tom just said, which is, again, for the board, the STAR program, everything he just talked about, that was from the New York State School Board Convention. So it really is a valuable thing. There's great stuff that came out of it. And I want to point that out because I need to justify to myself sometimes why we pay money to belong to New York State School Board Association, and I don't mean that as negative, but you know, it's a chunk of change, and they really do offer some really good things.
So to be clear, did I hear it right that ROTC, we're going to do something with a program here in the future?
It's the STAR program, so they send their military people, and part of it is they can't recruit or do anything like that. It's just providing resources, and it's this program that they run, and it's very similar to ROTC, but it's like leadership skills and things like that. And then the next step after that's been established would be actual ROTC program. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, one of the things I thought was great that I think it was the Lieutenant Colonel had said at the time was basically takes the things that everyone, whether they know it or not, admires about military service, which is developing leadership and just life skills, and offering it to everyone, whether they end up enlisting or not. So yeah, it's a total give back from our armed forces. So. All right. Awesome. Great discussion. So we'll pick that back up, and I'll update the Google Doc. Thank you, Mr. Patch, for doing that. All right, second part of unfinished business is the mental health task force, and I believe our unfinished business is simply identifying 2 board members. So I know Mrs. Wood had expressed interest. Does anyone else want to offer themselves up or have a great interest to participate in that committee? Silence. Yeah, I don't want to put anyone on the spot. We have a ton between capital projects and all the other committees. There's a ton going. So, if there isn't anyone else, I'll put my name in for that one. So,
Good thing, because we want to fail goal 3.
yeah, exactly. Mrs. Wood and Mr. Martin, and then of course, we'll have that committee come back and present to us.
Just for the record.
Third and final, I think, unfinished business was, it's just listed as review of overnight student trips policy. There's no action. It's going to stay on there until we have the new policy so that we don't forget or lose track of that action item. So I don't want Aaron
Discussed tonight in the policy?
We did discuss it, and we have proposed changes, so
So we'll, probably at the next meeting or sometime, we'll begin our 2 readings. And okay, awesome. Thank you. All right. That opens up for open board. Anything anyone wants to mention, discuss, bring up? Excellent work. We will move right on to the superintendent's report.
Forgot my glasses. All right, here we go. The Paul V. Moore College planning presentation, hosted by Empower, held on November 9, was a success, as the Director of Financial Aid, Mark Hill, educated community members on the types of loans and funding that are available to assist the college planning process. Empower will be presenting again on December 6th on banking and financial literacy at 6 p.m. in the Paul V. Moore Auditorium. Mrs. Janet Fabian, a substitute teacher, teaching assistant in our district, came to me asking if the school would be interested in making cards for a young boy who was featured on CNN. He has stage 4 high-risk neuroblastoma and will probably lose his fight in less than a month. With his one wish was for Christmas cards. If you want to get that going this way. With 2 days before the deadline, a few of our schools came together and made 536 cards for him. I am so proud of our district. I received a nice thank you note. It's coming around right now from Ms. Fabian, and I would like to thank her publicly for all that she has done for this young boy. She came in and was just overwhelmed in tears that she came to our school community, and they came through with 536 cards. And again, doing things like that in a classroom just really lets students know, especially around the holiday time, what's truly important. So that just shows our community right there. Division All-Star first team, Jamie Battaglia, Slade Springer, Nick Ransom, Mason Hoyt, Mike Monica, Philip Miller, Jared Dwyer. Division All-Star second team, Robert Stevens, Jordan Poney, Logan Mooney, Casey Brennan, John Helms, Noah Turtura, and Zach Havens. Divisional honorable mentions, Alex Worcester, Alan Tennant, Chris Neverett, and Jacob Cogswell. Also, Jamie Battaglia was selected to the All-Central New York first team. That's a huge accomplishment. Great job to all. On National STEM Day, Thornton from Channel 9 visited Central Square Middle School during a team's achievement time and presented about meteorology and her job. New York State Trooper Brian DeRoshi presented to the 8th graders about cyber safety and social media. Central Square Middle School, through donations and an electronics day, raised over $400 to support students in a hurricane-impacted area in Florida. Lehigh Acres Middle School was chosen because a former Central Square Middle School teacher and current substitute, Ann Lacerdo, has grandchildren who attend LAMS. Mr. Shaughnessy's parents live in the area and will hand-deliver our contribution directly to their school. The following students were accepted based on their NYSMA solo audition to perform in the following area all-state honors ensembles. Senior High Area All-State Treble Chorus, Kira Brill. Senior High Area All-State Mixed Chorus, Kylie Galerno. Ginger Van Ellen. Caleb Durant. Senior High Area All-State Honors Band, Jessica Georges. Jillian Julian. Mark Savage, Jared King, Cole Wilson, Justin Howe, Michelle Bedworth, Hannah Sluski, Lily Fitzgerald, Elena Mascaro, Kiara Sterling, Senior High Area All-State Honors Symphony Orchestra, Rachel Stringer, Ben Morley, Elena Mascaro. The concert took place on November 18th, and great job to all. According to my Google form invitation, out of these 74 people that had originally expressed an interest in joining our College and Career Readiness Committee, so far 62 of them have said that they can make it. 16 of them unfortunately cannot, but they still want to be part of the committee, and I'm going to get them notes. I'm going to get them video clips of what took place. But I met with the committee, the planning committee for this today, and we had a great 2-hour brainstorming of what that first committee is going to look like, the first meeting. So we're really excited, and again, that is December 6th, right here. We're anticipating at that point be about 70 people still that will be there for that first day, 4:15 to 5:50, because at 6 o'clock there's another financial aid presentation that's going to be put on, and we want people to be able to go to that. That's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Colabufo. All right, with that, we move into our action items. I'm looking for a motion to accept item F1, which is approval of overnight student trips.
Make a motion to accept F1.
Mr. McCarthy with the motion, Mrs. Wood with the second. Any discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Can I get a motion for item G in its entirety, which is our consent agenda? And again, I'm just going to let everyone know what's on it. It's recommendations from the Committee on Special Education and Preschool, approval of disposals of surplus property, and approval of memorandum of agreement.
Make a motion to accept G in its entirety.
Motion from Mr. McCarthy, second. Mrs. Wood. Any discussion?
The only question that I had was pursuant to the email that went around, whether we ever found out what was happening to the computers.
Yeah, oh, thank you. Good reminder. So yeah, I had just asked, the disposal of surplus property is a whole bunch of unbelievably old computers. And I simply asked, there are a lot of companies that do recycling where there's a kickback for it, and Arena had researched everything. We use a company that, quite frankly, if they did that, the hassle and the added work it puts on the staff would eat up anything that they're offering for it, because so many of these are so old that they really aren't offering much. So she had researched all that, but there's nothing that's going to add anything to our coffers, quite frankly. So they are being picked up, recycled, and it meets all the requirements to strip the, obviously, data from it as well. So you can keep that going that way. Any other questions? All right, all those in favor of accepting item G in its entirety? It's unanimous. Motion for item H, personnel and instructional in its entirety.
I'll make a motion to accept H in its entirety.
Second.
Second, Mr. Loyer. Any discussion? All those in favor? All right, with that, I make a motion that the Central School District Board of Education hereby move into executive session to discuss matters with an update on personnel discipline of 2 people with no action to follow.
Second.
Second, Mr. Loyer. Any discussion? All those in favor? We will move into executive session. We will return, but with no action to follow. So, Mr. Colabufo, your staff can go, right?
Yes.
Good with you?